But they started to dig deeper, and they started to realize this is not even about the low level of the Galactic Federation. This rabbit hole goes really deep. And that's where it becomes really shady. Something is going on here. Someone is feeding suffering and fear into the humanity. This is not right. This is too much permissiveness going on. So they basically started to realize the Galactic Federation, or whoever is running it behind, is criminal based on a lack of mission of action and environment of suffering on Earth to feed someone, to feed something. Someone is benefiting from this. It's not just to benefit the souls.
Hello, Mark. I was just about to call you. It's like you read my mind.
You didn't have to say anything. We are all becoming telepathic. Haven't you been listening to those gay extraterrestrial messages? Our DNA is being upgraded by the cosmic rays or something. We are all going to ascend with the Earth into 5th density, but we can't bring anything. We're all going to arrive naked, which is why I've been hitting the gym. I guess we are going to have to build shelters out of rocks when we get there. I'm going to shave downstairs before the trip. Maybe I'll even add some lightning bolts, so all the other naked hippies know I mean business. I might even try to smuggle in a knife up the old prison wallet.
Mark, I'm not sure what you mean, but I seriously hope you are not considering hiding a shiv up your rectum to bring with you to paradise. I'll admit, though, that's rather clever. Completely insane, but clever.
Buckle up, buttercups. Joking aside, I have my reservations about this ascension process. As it turns out, the extraterrestrials are just as sneaky as us. It's comforting in a way, no matter where you end up in the universe, and no matter who you talk to, everyone has an agenda. It's true that certain extraterrestrials are able to access social media and post videos. Ironically, they still need a Google account, which can be challenging. The aliens can drag a moon from the opposite end of the galaxy, but they still have trouble with authentication and clicking on images of bicycles to prove they are not robots. So instead, they rely on channelers with active accounts on YouTube to relay messages, nearly all of whom tend to be lonely white middle-aged cat ladies. So take everything with a grain of salt. Anyway, between insane attention-starved Karens, Luciferian disinformation agents, autonomous AI and bots rewriting the internet, our own governments and tight-lipped extraterrestrials, finding solid intel can be a major pain in the ass. I regret to inform you that the Galactic Federation of Worlds may have been infiltrated by nefarious actors. Personally, my money is on the Israelis, but who knows? They are currently making backdoor deals with the Cabal in Antarctica. They are also excluding certain member nations to attend these meetings, and it has something to do with the astral realm. Most likely louche farming. If you take the blinders off, this all makes perfect sense. Do you think the extraterrestrials honestly care about some backwater planet? No, Earth is a laboratory, or at best, a crucible designed to forge hybridized psychic spiritual warriors. There were 6 human civilizations before us, and 3 of them were highly advanced, and there is no trace of them. We are talking about genocide on a planetary scale. I find it highly dubious that the Galactic Federation would not have been involved on some level. The intergalactic whistleblowers turned out to be the Taygetans. They look exactly like us, but way more healthy. So if you run into a girl in her mid-20s with advanced knowledge of quantum mechanics, and if she isn't gross, obese, brainwashed, and covered in tattoos, you, my friend, are likely dealing with an alien chick. 5D might not be a physical location, but rather a state of consciousness, and this whole talk of migrating to 5D might be a complete fabrication to keep us temporarily placated until the Galactic Federation is able to finalize their plans. Think about it. Why do they keep telling us to stay positive and maintain good vibes, even though most of us are drowning in debt? Even those of us who are relatively healthy are likely caring for sick and dying family members. It is also impossible to overlook the glaring hypocrisy of the Galactic Federation. Key officials are hiding behind the Prime Directive while simultaneously breaking their own rules by making direct contact with Cabal and other factions who are openly trying to murder us. The Prime Directive isn't even applicable at this point given the fact we've been literally gang-raped by extraterrestrials since our inception. Earth is basically a tourist destination at this point, and we Terrans seem to be the happy accident of a broken condom. If the extraterrestrials were sincere, they would help the White Hats deliver the killing blow to the Cabal and introduce medbed technology along with redistributing the world's stolen wealth. If that were to happen, then you wouldn't need to keep reminding people to stay positive. We'd literally have to go see a plastic surgeon to remove the permanent smiles from our faces. There would be so much positive energy the planet would literally transform. Oh shit. A thought just occurred to me. Perhaps our continued torture is by design. If a debt jubilee and an end to all our problems were to be instantaneously solved, there would be a tsunami of euphoria that would ripple out from the collective and across all dimensions. It's possible the aliens are intentionally pushing everyone on Earth to the precipice of madness in order to milk us for every last drop of positive life force once they remove our shackles. Perhaps Atlas is an energy collector they are getting in place before the announcement. Of course, this could just be wishful thinking on my part. The opposite could also be true. Either way, we are at the mercy of the storm. Manipulation, lies, and deceit seem to be the only universal constants on this prison planet, and it will likely be the only real lesson I take away from my brief and traumatic time here. Word of advice, don't feed your parasites. Whether positive or negative, light or dark, stay in the eye of the storm and piss on it from the inside. The following is an excerpt from an interview conducted by Dr. Salla. The woman is not a channeler. She merely posts information on YouTube that comes directly from Taygetan sources. I strongly encourage you to watch the entire interview, as it provides a unique perspective on current events. To those trying to understand why disclosure and the continued suffering of humanity is being allowed to continue, which, ultimately, only succeeds in creating more despair and more dark manifestations.
Yes, okay, well, that's good that you clarify some things, Gosha. So in 2017, can you just explain how it was that you and Robert made contact with Swaru? How did that happen, and how did the communications unfold over the next 3 years?
Okay, so my community, which can be found at Cosmic Agency, that's the YouTube channel, and zvaru.org, that's our website. Our community already knows the story, but of course I am new here to your community. Thank you, by the way, for invitation again, and hello to everybody who doesn't know me. So yes, in 2017, this is the first time that we were introduced to one of the Taygetan Pleiadian crew members, right in the orbit of the Earth. And her name was Swaru Ofera. How it happened was that Robert, who was at one of those Barcelona conferences, he met this, what we call older lady. And the older lady, French lady, at the time, she had the communication with those Taygetan people, very important. They are people. So she was at the time wanting to share that story with others. She communicated with Robert at the conference. They just met randomly. And then she introduced Robert to Swaru Ofera. I'm going to explain how that introduction happened. And then he introduced her to me. So that was the chain. And now, okay, how did we get introduced? What do I mean by that? Well, this is not a channeled information. This is not a channel communication. I am not on that. Well, we all are. We are all telepathic. Of course we are, so I don't want to take that power away from myself. But in a way, you know, I do not communicate telepathically. I do not communicate by channeling. And they, even though they do, or they did at that time, engage in some channeling activity with the humans, at the time they discarded that because they wanted more direct communication where they can pass the information and where they can chat with people word by word and more exactly, because the channeling can be sometimes prone to all these distortions and some kind of a personal interpretations. So they decided to do it that way. And the communication was done by the technology of the internet, and we can go into that. So that's one of the reasons why they decided to use the technology of the internet, and also because, and we can go into that topic, the Prime Directive doesn't allow them, in theory, to communicate with anybody by any technological means that is beyond what's available. So since now we had the technology of the internet before they had channeling, right? They only depended on that and maybe some physical contacts here and there. But officially, it's also not allowed by the Federation, officially. So now they resorted to this internet communication. And by the way, they are not the only ones. Internet is flooded and has been flooded by the extraterrestrial people who are there assessing, talking, gathering information, seeding concepts. Just like they are seeding concepts by telepathic communication with many people, they are also seeding concepts through the internet, because it's the hub. It's where everything is happening. It's where people go looking for information. So of course they're going to use this as a tool to help humanity and to seed confusion at the same time too. And then we go here into the shady levels of the Federation, which is a totally different topic. So going back, the internet, because it's more reliable in terms of passing a large bulk of technical information and just the information that they don't want distorted, and because of the Prime Directive, which imposes on them all kinds of restriction. It's based on the conversations. We had just personal conversations, and by the mutual agreement, we decided to share that. Sometimes we would go into specific topic, because once it was decided that this is going to be shared, so with Varu of Erra and then Anneka of Temer, that is another planet in Taygetan, Temer, well, we were going into specific topics. So we were choosing a topic, like, for example, Prime Directive or Ascension, so to speak, and then we would discuss that topic, and I would edit that. Edit meaning just, clean it up, so it's not saturated with some unnecessary things. And I would present that in a video and in a transcript. All the transcripts, if you don't want to watch 500 videos, that's too much. You can read that free on the website, sbaru.org, okay? Because all the videos have transcripts in Spanish and in English. I'm doing this in both languages. Enough confidence in her judgment that okay, well, she's going to introduce me to someone from the orbit. Well, let's see. It was unbelievable to me that someone would actually want to talk to me from the orbit and waste their time. Actually, I even talked to them, to Svaru, about this many times. Like, why are you talking to me? I don't understand. Someone there sitting in the ship makes no sense to me. But here's another layer. They revealed to me that actually I'm a Taygetan myself. And what happened is that I am in a so-called immersion program. Do you know the immersion?
I've heard of the Envoy program. I think it may be very similar.
I've heard you talk about the Envoy, but I'm not sure what that means. Immersion is when you are in the hibernation pod, and you are transferring yourself to the human avatar on Earth. So this is not just something that Taygetan does. It's actually one of the most common ways for the extraterrestrial people, one of the safest way to live as a human on Earth. So they go into these hibernation capsules, and we have this process technically described by Anneka. As you see, this is another girl, Anneka. She describes this in 3 videos in details, technically how it's done. The immersion program to come in here as a human is a mixture of the MedBed technology, MedPod technology, and this entertainment immersion system. So it's where they immerse themselves. That's why it's called immersion. They are immersed in this liquid. They have to breathe that liquid in, and they go under, and then their brains, the mind signal is transferred by matching the frequencies to the avatar on Earth. And this avatar on Earth, which is a human person, can be an organic portal. That's usually how it's done. And then they can inhabit that organic portal and be a person on Earth. Or it can happen in the process of a walk-in. So one soul walks out, and this immersion extraterrestrial person walks in. And this can happen at any point in your life. It doesn't just happen at birth. All this one, and this is when it gets metaphysical. You can also immerse yourself back into the Earth time. You can even have 2 immersion programs, run 2 programs at the same time, which is actually what they told me that I'm doing as well, which is not very usual. Normally, there is one extraterrestrial person and one program. You immerse yourself into the person, one. But sometimes for the crazy-minded one, like I think I am, because it fits my personality. I'm very adventurous, and I like to experiment, especially metaphysically. Well, I'm supposedly running 2 programs at the same time. I am not aware of the other program. I know it's a female, and they told me where she is, but I don't know what the plan with that is, and they didn't tell me. So answering your question, you can even immerse yourself back into the Earth timeline, something like that. It's not something I fully understand myself, but most of them are very young, idealistic, Taygetan Pleiadians who come here and they are in search for adventure or for a mission, something to do, because many times, I'll go back to the subject of Svaru, don't worry, because many times it's quite boring there and on their planets. It's very peaceful and there's not much to do in terms of action. Earth is where all the action is happening, and not just positive action. There is something to fight for. There's challenges. There is a cause. You can be here. And Taygetans are very epic, and they are explorers, and they are fighters. Not all of them. I'm not going to generalize. Of course, there are many of them back in Taygeta. Like I said, they are living peaceful life. They are farmers. They are artists. They are very much into art. All the Pleiadians, but Taygetans as well, musicians, constructors. So they live their life, but there isn't that action going on. And sometimes, even on a soul level, etheric level, you need some kind of a struggle. You need some sort of a challenge to push yourself more to the limit, to discover what you can do, what you can manifest, how you can transform reality. If everything is perfect and you're living on the beach in Taygeta, you are not manifesting anything anymore, because you need some kind of a contrast against which to bounce off in order to practice your manifestation powers and your creativity. And that's why many souls, many Taygetans, but also many souls on that level, they are drawn to Earth, because this is the field where they can practice all this. That's another topic. Anyway.
Okay, so Svaru was communicating with you and Robert from 2017 to 2020, and then she left and someone else took over, and you clarified a little bit earlier that it was not just Svaru, that there were many involved.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Can you just maybe just give us a very general, it doesn't have to be very deep,
So along with Svaru Ofera, we were actually introduced to many crew members that we talked to briefly. Not all of them were our main contacts, but we were introduced overall to 17 of them throughout 7 years, but very briefly. Okay, sometimes it was just one conversation.
I can share a screen from your website if that helps.
Sure. Him on audio, what he did, it was about 2020, I think. What he did, because he's a fighter pilot as well, he actually connected from his ship when he was actually in a very low orbit of the Earth. So he surpassed the Federation filters that are imposed on them, because the Taygetans are very rebellious, and that's where the whole conflict with the Federation here comes in, and that's why they were called negative by many, because they dared to speak out against the shady activities going on in the Federation. So anyway, Dorkalel, he connected through the audio, going around these regulations, and we heard his voice, and that was amazing. And then Ragel of Temer, that's another one. And then we have Naishara Oferra at the very end as well, who we spoke to as well.
There were 9 Taygetans and beings from Temer. So these are 2 planets in. Taygeta is the star system. They come either from Era or Temer. These were 2 planets in the Pleiadian system.
4. There are 4. Mostly they come from Era. And mostly they come from Temer. These are 2 major planets. And then there is Dakote, sounds like that. And then there is Procyon. But it's not the Procyon, the star. It's just sounds similar. So there are 4 different planets, but mostly from 2, Era and Temer.
Okay. So
Starseeds concept doesn't just end with Earth. Just like we have starseeds, so to speak, no? On Earth, there are also star seeds or however you want to call it, envoys, among different societies and different planets. So, for example, Urma, which is a feline race, they have their starseeds in the Taygetan society. Taygetan societies, they have starseeds in their Urma societies. Usually there are several civilizations that are frequency matched to themselves, because, for example, it would be very difficult for a Taygetan to be a starseed in an Orion society. There's too much of a difference there, unless they really insisted, I guess. But mostly it happens within a civilization that have similar vibration, similar ethics, similar mentality.
As I understand it, the Taygetans are part of the Galactic Federation of Worlds, but at the same time, Swaru and those other individuals that you named, they were part of this kind of initiative to go outside of the Federation protocols and activities to communicate directly with humans, and disagreed with some Federation policies. So can you explain this relationship between the Taygetans and the Galactic Federation?
Yeah. Oh, by the way, very important, something I didn't mention for the newcomers. This group, this race, is exactly the same race that contacted Billy Mayer. These are Taygetans that contacted Billy Mayer. This is very important. So, am I saying that his contact was real? Yes. He was really contacted by the same group. Asket was involved. Semyase was involved, and then Rachel of Temer, who is a Taygetan as well, she was the one who communicated with President Eisenhower. So that goes all the way there. For a very long time, Taygetans were like a right hand of the Federation. They were support for the Federation. They were their military force, one off. So for a very long time, the Federation was not even questioned by the Taygetans. They were kind of falling into that propaganda among other races. Because there is propaganda. Yes, just like there is propaganda going on Earth about a lot of things, about the Galactic Federation, there's also propaganda among races. And that's why even sometimes many contactees would come and say something, because they are also bringing that information from the propaganda level of the Federation itself. It's very complicated. Together with that, what happened is that their relationship with the Federation started to deteriorate more and more. And this culminated during the COVID times, because the COVID times showed the Taygetans very clearly the excessive permissiveness of the Galactic Federation towards what was happening on Earth. And because they are so active and so rebellious and they just want to help, and they didn't agree with a lot of actions or lack of actions shown shown by the Galactic Federation towards humanity. They were excessively permissive towards the negative agendas, towards negative races being involved, at the same time hiding behind the excuses of, oh, we are doing this because we are protecting the Earth realm and we are here to make sure that the Prime Directive is abide by. But at the same time, behind the scenes, they are involved as hell, the Galactic Federation, on all levels and for centuries. And that's what the Taygetans were starting to expose. And that's what the Taygetans started to understand themselves more and more. Because before, like I said, they themselves were the right hand of the Federation for a very long time. They didn't even question. Many races still don't question it. That's the problem here. So more or less in 2017, 2020, especially with the COVID times, they started questioning the methods more and more. And they started to realize there's something here going on. We are left in the dark. They were never informing the Taygetans of what was happening in those high-level meetings, for example. And supposedly they were members of the Galactic Federation. Well, they were only meeting among themselves. For example, in Antarctica, it's where a lot of these meetings go on, shady meetings with the dark levels of the Cabal, with the dark levels of the Extraterrestrials, and it goes all the way to the dark levels of the Federation. They all meet there, and they discuss future agendas for Earth. And Taygetans were never invited. They were always left in the dark. They were always left behind, speculating what was going on there. So they started to expose the Federation for... Well, in the beginning, they didn't call them regressive at that time yet, because they were like, okay, we see a lot of positive Galactic Federation members, Andromedans, for example, a lot of peaceful Galactic Federation members who are really trying their best, who think they are doing their best, they have good intentions, but they started to dig deeper and they started to realize this is not even about the low level of the Galactic Federation. This rabbit hole goes really deep, all the way to Saturn, all the way beyond the Saturn, all the way into astral levels. And that's where it becomes really shady. Something is going on here. Someone is feeding suffering and fear into the humanity. This is not right. This is too much permissiveness going on. So they basically started to realize the Galactic Federation, or whoever is running it behind, is criminal based on a lack of mission of action. There was absolutely no action, on that, massive level during the COVID times. The negative agendas were being allowed for whatever reasons, and they were seeing that a lot of treaties were going on with the regressive factions, that's what they were doing. That's what they were revealing to the public through our videos. And that's why a lot of people were saying that we are being so negative and bashing the Galactic Federation, because all we were doing is just indicating certain inconsistencies within the actions of this political organization, which it is. It is a political. It's just like on Earth. When you have a government, it has a double face. Of course, it's going to present itself as this beautiful and loving and liberating force, but it has other agendas at the back, and that's what the Taygetans were looking at. Of course, they are very good people within the Federation. Most of them are actually quite innocent. It's about what's behind. It's about that rotten core that is somewhere there among the levels that is running the show. And that's what they are trying to reveal. And it's very difficult to understand, actually, even for them, what's going on. Because as they told us, just because we are here, we have some more vision of the situation, but it doesn't mean we know everything. It's like you are living in the United States. You have some access to it, but you don't know everything what's happening on every level. So it's the same there. They don't have, especially because they are denied a lot of information. Many of these innocent races are denied the access to some of these most important meetings, even like in Antarctica. Do you think all these races are allowed to go in there? No, only like a clique, an elite group. And that's what's suspicious. That's not being transparent. That's not being honest. Something shady is going on. And that's why they started to separate from the Galactic Federation.
Elena Danaan and her information that came forward in 2021, that this information you're sharing was before that. And because that's important, because, people will think that Elena's information was first, but in fact, your information was first. And then she disowned a lot of the Swaru material, but that it's important to contextualize it, that this was first. The criticisms of the Galactic Federation were before Elena appeared on the scene, and the criticisms appear to be very valid.
You did mention the Prime Directive. That we published in 2018. That I know for sure that this was first, because you mentioned that in an email, and we published that in 2018. The Prime Directive content.
Well, that's very important, because here's the Prime Directive that you published in 2018, and it had 10 articles in there. And I was very surprised when I saw that, because pretty much the same Prime Directive was published by Elena Danaan in 2021. And she said it came from the Galactic Federation, and it was transmitted to her. But it was word for word, just with some slight changes and a slightly different ordering of the principles of the 10 principles that you put out in 2018. And it's important to emphasize that you were first. And I think about the 3D matrix that is kind of like containing the Earth, and that is what the Galactic Federation is maintaining, because we need to learn not to manifest nightmares, which is what the deep state encourages us to do, that we need to learn collectively to manifest beauty and abundance before we're allowed to join 5D society. So you want to tell us about that?
Well, that is one of their statements that they are promoting. And I'm not saying this is not true, okay? Yes, we do have to learn to manifest better and to, be able to grow into a more ethical, spiritual, evolved society. All that, yes. However, what we believe, and that's what I know from my Taygetan's Baronian friends, is that what they have been observing is that the Galactic Federation is using that as an excuse, and is hiding behind that too much, because there are just too many inconsistencies with this statement. For example, okay, they are saying we have to learn to manifest what we see and our reality. However, what they are pumping our reality with is making people manifest more of the same, which means that we are being pumped with horrible agendas, with fear and with suffering. And what happens then, based on a law of mirror, the more you see of something, the more you're going to manifest that. So they are hiding behind the excuse that they are giving to people what they want, that people need to learn to control their manifestations. However, they are giving more, or being permissive and giving as well, negative agendas to the humanity and suffering, based on which later people will be manipulated to manifest more of those nightmares, because that's what they will be perceiving. What you perceive manifests. But perception is manifestation. Perception is manifestation. If you're going to guide the perception towards certain ideas, certain agendas, fear as such a huge manifestation, factor here, concentrator of manifestation, then people are going to be lured and trapped into this vicious circle of manifesting more of that. That's the law of a mirror. That's a mirror. Yeah, that's the law of a mirror. Which that's why there is this illogical inconsistency here, because they are permitting. And they are not just permitting, like I'm saying, they are literally collaborating with some of these agendas to give it to the people. And they are, again, hiding behind the excuse, this is what the humanity wants. Their information, they have started to suspect that there is actually more behind this. And this goes all the way into the astral. And this goes all the way into feeding those entities that are actually here, lured into the situation like parasites. When you have a situation in your body that is compromised, there is suffering, there is a low frequency, there is a low immunity, all these different parasites are going to be drawn to that. They're going to feed from that, because that's the ambience and the environment for them to grow. Well, what we are saying is that someone is benefiting from growing a specific ambience and environment of suffering on earth to feed someone, to feed something. Someone is benefiting from this. It's not just to benefit the souls. But what they are saying is that the core of the problem here is with the Federation, that someone is benefiting with creating this suffering factory on earth. And this goes all the way back to the regressive astral beings, which are very real. It's actually very described in detail about the astral side of everything, and how actually everything is going on the astral. Many times, a lot of things are being played out on the astral before they manifest here. And even the Cabal knows this. They have Cabal astral soldiers who go and they actually perform operations, and they do all kinds of, it's very complicated what's going on Earth. It's a multi-density play field. So the astral entities are benefiting from this. The regressive entities, Orions, for example, the Tall Greys, Maitre, are also benefiting from this. And someone within the Galactic Federation is not only allowing this, but is cooperating and enabling this. Why is this being enabled? Who is really feeding from this? That's what the problem here is.
And so that's why the Taygetans have this belief that the Federation is infiltrated. Is that really the genesis of that?
Orion Grace, maybe, they never they never lost power. This goes all the way to these Orion Wars. This continues. And the Federation supposedly, long time ago, eons ago, was created as a defense, as a sort of alliance between races against the Orion races and the reptile races. But it could have been infiltrated, yes, of course, by the Orion races themselves, which, by the way, they are reporting that there is a huge presence of Orion Greys around Earth, and it's not even like accountable for, and the Federation doesn't even say why they are there. And well, officially they are saying, no, they are good. They are on a good side. We are controlling them. This is all good. We are cooperating with them, but they're not explaining why are you exactly cooperating. The Federation don't have like the Taygetans don't have the access to all the details all the time. So it could have been infiltrated by the Orion Greys. Perhaps it has always been in their hands. So it's not infiltrated. It's just always there, that element always there. Because when you look back on the history, I mean, this is just constant suffering, right? The Earth has been under this suppression for such a long time. So what's going on here? There could be artificial intelligence somewhere on the deep, invasive galactic level also having its tentacles here, and it could be also manipulating the Orions themselves. It's very complicated. I don't think it's just one element involved. Astral entities who are also influencing always, because they always influence. And who will they be influencing? They will be influencing the most who they are vibrational match to. So if you are a positive high frequency being, it's very unlikely you will be really influenced by the negative astral entities. But if there is a negative infiltration happening within the Federation, well, the astral influence also will be there. It's all connected. It's all connected. We have to look at this whole picture as a connected reality, not as separated elements.
Okay.
Like I said, it has to be matched by the transformation from the society itself. But what they're saying is that it has to at least allow the humanity to evolve naturally, not allowing and enabling all the negative stuff. It's just too much on the balance of things of what the Galactic Federation is permitting, in contrast to what is not permitting. It's interfering too much. I mean, you have no idea, and they are hiding behind these excuses that they are not allowing the interference. They have politicians as extraterrestrials, Federation members fully operating as step-downs. We call them step-downs, which means full extraterrestrial people coming from the ship, playing the role of a politician here and there. What is that? Another interference. They are having secret video meetings and physical meetings with this and that member of the political scene, and implanting information, altering history. That's super important. You have no idea. They are guilty of erasing history, altering history, implanting evidence of historical evidence that suits their version of the narrative of the history. Basically, Taygetan told us that so much of what we see as our history is false. It's not even as it is chronologically. They cannot even find evidence that there is chronological, the official version of the historical events doesn't match how they understand things to be. And a lot of it is false, is simply false. And it's all done by the Federation. The Federation is behind all the resets that have been happening. Why? Again, because they are trying to preserve this Earth 3D, you called it. I will talk about the 3D thing. They are trying to preserve this realm. And even if they are fighting against some darker forces, it's not to liberate people from them. It's to protect the Earth field for their own interests. So you see, it is helping humans in the process to keep some of these negatives at bay, but the interest is not pure. They are not doing this for us here. They are doing this to protect their interest of preserving this Earth matrix under their control. They want to control this.
That's all for today, Buttercups. Now here is Jimmy Stewart in the beloved classic It's a Wonderful Life, telling off Mr. Potter once and for all.
You disgust me, Mr. Potter. You know what, Mr. Potter? I think you're a little bitch. I think you're a scared little bitch. I think you're a scared little bitch, and you probably want to suck it. I bet you would.